Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Yevamos Daf Mem Vav. We are on Mem Hey Amud Beis 3 from the bottom. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chama Bar Guri, Amar Rav, Halikeach Eved Mena Eved Kechavim. If a Yisrael purchases a slave from a guy, so a guy owns a non-Jewish slave and transfers him to a Yisrael, the halacha is that when an Eved is owned by a Yisrael, he's considered a semi-Yisrael. According to the words of the Rambam, he left the domain of a guy and somewhat entered the Yisrael territory. He's not completely a Yisrael. In fact, he's only chayev in the mitzvahs that a woman is chayev. So he's somewhat considered Yisrael because he is under the jurisdiction, under the control and the possession of Yisrael. So he relates to the owner. So he becomes somewhat a Yisrael as well. In order for that to happen, the Eved needs to be toivel. L'shem avdus, l'shem yahadus, as Rashi says. And that happens as the Yisrael acquires him, he is toivel, and then he becomes an Eved of Yisrael with all its ramifications. Now, let's say the Yisrael, as he's purchasing the Eved from the Goy, the Eved jumps the gun. He's smart aleck. He jumps into the mikveh and says, look, I'm going to be toivel now to become a full-fledged Yisrael. I'm becoming a ger. I'm free man. I'm no longer an Eved. That works. Halikeach Eved Mena Eved Kechavim. The Yisrael purchases a slave from a Goy. V'kadam v'tava l'shem ben chayr. The Eved jumps into the mikveh to do a tvila l'shem gerus, to become a free man, to become a Yisrael. Kana atzma ben chayr. He goes free. Going forward, he is a Yisrael. My time, how does this work? Answer is, Eved Kechavim gufa loikanile. A non-Jew does not have the ability to really own his fellow non-Jew. At most, he can force him to work for him. It's called a shibud mamaim. So the slave will work for his master, but he's not really owned by the master. It's more of a monetary, financial interest that he has in this Eved. Gufalei kanile. He doesn't actually own his fellow goy. We learned this from Psukim. So Yisrael can actually own an Eved Kanani, can own a goy. The goof of the Eved is considered possession of the Yisrael. But a Yisrael can't own his fellow Yisrael. He can only have him work for him. That's an Eved Ivri. And lahavda, likewise, a goy cannot really own his fellow goy. So when we say he's an Eved of a goy, it means to say he's meshubat him. He has to work for him. He's committed. He has a job. He's a full-time worker. And certainly a goy cannot own a Yisrael as well. That being so when he transfers that ownership, so to speak, to the Yisrael, when he sells the Eved to the Yisrael, what is he going to transfer? A limited ownership, a limited financial hold in that Eved. My dekanile, what the Goyish owner has in his Eved, hu de makni le Yisrael, that's what he's going to transfer to the Yisrael. It's a limited transfer. It's only a partial ownership. It's sort of a monetary hold in this person. Therefore, v'kivan de kadam v'tava l'shem ben chern. So if the Eved jumps into the mikveh, I'm becoming a Jew. Afke l'shibude. You know what that does? It undoes the shibud. It usurps the hold and the ownership, which is a very limited ownership. So by turning himself into a Yisrael, that's way more powerful than the limited financial, monetary hold that the Goy and now the Yisrael is meant to own and have in this Eved. Gerus is the Kedusha pertaining to the Guf of the Eved. And that stands higher, is more powerful, it overrides anything else. Kid the Rav, as Rav tells us, in similar fashion elsewhere. The Amar Rav, Hegdesh Chametz V'Shichrur. Rashi explains. Reuven borrowed from Shimon, and he designated an apoitiki, which is really a joint word. Apoi, on this, tehei will be your claim. He's designated an item, whether it's an eved, whether it's chametz, or anything else. This is going to be the item on which you can lay your claim. This is going to be the primary shibud, which will guarantee, it's sort of a guarantor, will guarantee my loan. What happens? The loiva goes ahead and takes this item and makes it hegdish. The hegdish process undoes that commitment, because hegdish is something which relates to the guf. Rashi says we're speaking about hegdish lemizbeach as a carbon that affects the inherence of the item, that dumps away, that shoves aside any residual commitments related and associated with this item. Likewise, chametz. Suddenly Pesach is upon us. The isser of chametz, which relates to the item itself, undoes any shibut which was handed over to the guy. Right, so it's my chametz. I'm designating this item as the apoitiki. You can lay your claim on this. No, chametz comes along and undoes that, because the isser of chametz is more powerful, and this item at the end of the day is really mine, the Yisrael's, and therefore we treat it accordingly, and it becomes usser. We ignore the fact that it was designated to the guy who lent me that money upon which to lay his claim. Thirdly is shichrur. If you have an eved which you designated, you can claim your loan from this eved. This is your primary claimant, so to speak. And then I go ahead and I release the eved, I free him. It works. And the malva, the creditor, loses his privilege, loses his claim, because his was only a limited monetary claim. Can use the eved to claim his money from me, but the actual eved belonged to whom? To me. The guf belonged to me. And when I release that eved, I affect the guf itself. So that affects and that undoes the shibud. Hegdish, chametz, v'shichrur, mafkin midei shibud. They undo, they override shibud mammon. So in similar fashion by us, when the guy transfers his eved to the Yisrael, it's only a limited transfer. He's only giving over limited ownership, shibud mammon. So if the eved jumps into the mikvah, l'shem gerus, that pertains to guf. That's stronger than mammon. He goes free. Maser of Chiz, I have a kash on you. Maser b'bloyer yahagiyeris. Bloyer the giyeris converted with her avodim. And what happens? Shekadmu avodeha v'tavlu lefaneh. Her avodim, smart fellows, they quickly jumped ahead and they tavled for the sake of becoming a Yisrael. And they want to go free. And they did it before she became a Yisrael, right? Uba masel fnei chacham. The story was presented to the chachamim. What's the halacha? Are they free or not? Did she retain her ownership, or did she lose that ownership? V'amru, the chacham said, Kanu atzma b'nei cher. They're lucky. They were set free. They jumped the gun. They jumped into the mikvah l'shem gerus. They beat her to it. She is at this point still a guy, and she can't own the Yisrael. The Yisrael goes free. That was the story. We have a diuk. Lifon now in only because they jumped ahead of her. At the point when they became a ger, she was still a guy, and she could not really hold on to them, because she's a guy and they're already Yisraelim, and she loses hold of them. She only had them because when they were goyim, but now they're Yisraelim, they left her possession. But let's say they would have followed her. First she becomes a geyeris, and then they. Loy. This halacha wouldn't apply. Why? Because she is now Yisrael, and she has the right, she has the privilege, she has the ability to own a guy. So here you see that even if they go into the mikvah l'shem gerus, the owner's ownership doesn't expire. Not to steer it to our halach amarava. No. Even if she's a geyeris before them, the same halacha would apply. The difference between lefonea and lachareya is as follows. Lefonea, if they beat her to it, then bein bestam, whether they specified, bein bestam means it was unspecified, they were just toivel, and they were not mefarish, they didn't express their plans, that they're doing it l'shem ben chayr, bein ben mefurish, whether it was specified, either way it works. But lachareya, if she's already a Yisraelis, she's already in this Gair, and they come and follow her, then it can also work, as we learned. Because the Geras overrides her ownership, but then you have to be mechalik, you have to be careful. Be mefurish in, if it was actually specified, and they're actually opposing her, I'm doing this Hashem Geras, that extricates them from her hold. Be mefurish in, but bestamle, if it's unspecified, it doesn't automatically work. So that's the chilik between this and that. But in concept and principle, sure, this halacha holds true. When you only have limited ownership, and that Eved jumps into the mikvah and turns himself into Yisrael, into a ger, that pertains to guf. That pertains to his core essence, that certainly supersedes any financial holdings that you may have in him. This is only said, right? Like we learned when he's buying from a guy. Why? Because in that case, the guy never had more than a monetary interest in this Eved, and that's what he's transferring to the Yisrael, and therefore that can be overridden by the Gerus, which affects the Guf. But let's say Yisrael approaches a guy and purchases him as an Eved. In that case, certainly he has more than just shibud mammon. He actually owns the Guf of the guy, and the guy can't just turn around and change matters so quickly. You can purchase as slaves the non-Jewish dwellers amongst you. We have a diak. Mehem tiknu means atem koinim mehem. A Yisrael has the ability to purchase the guy and own him. V'loyhem koinim mechem. They don't have the ability to do so. They can't own the guf of Yisrael. V'loyhem koinim zemezeh. Likewise, they can't purchase each other. They don't have that ownership. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? What's going on here? Pertaining to what? What does kinyan mean? V'loyhem koinim mechem. They can't purchase you. Lamai. To what extent? Even to have the Yisrael committed to work for the guy? Why not? Is that true? Is that really hold true? That the guy can't have that type of monetary ownership? Certainly it can. We have the pasuk where the Yisrael sells themselves as an Evet. And what does La'eka Mishpachas Ger mean? We learned Mishpachas Ger is the Evet Kechavim. It's the Mishpacha of the Evet Kechavim. Clearly, a non-Jew can own a Jew to the extent that he can make him work for him. Apparently, we're speaking about actually owning the Yisrael himself. Here, the pasuk is telling you, you have the ability to own the guy, even the guf of the guy, but not in the reverse. Asks Rav Acha, how do you see this from this pasuk? Ema bekaspa ubetvila. Perhaps, when the pasuk says that a Yisrael can actually own a guy, it's not like you said that the Yisrael is actually owning the guf of the guy, in which case he can't turn around and change things through Tvilas Yisrael. No, maybe the pasuk is telling you, look, you can purchase the guy if you pay money. If you're matbil him, you send him to the mikveh l'shem yahadus. Rashi says l'shem avdus. Then it works. But it's not to say that if the guy jumps ahead and is toivel l'shem ben chayr, and who's to say it doesn't work? Kasha, we leave it unresolved. Okay, so we learned that when a non-Jew transfers an Evet to Yisrael, it's a limited transfer because it's a limited ownership to begin with, in which case if the Evet jumps ahead and is toivel l'shem yahadus, l'shem Yisrael, he wins the game. So how do you circumvent that? Amar Shmuel, this is how you do it. You have to force him into the mikvah, because by doing so, you're illustrating that you are the owner. Rashi says, "Kadesha tehi niris ketfilas avdis." It should appear like he's being toivel for enslavement. In that case, even if he yells on top of his lungs, "No, I'm doing l'shem ben chern," it doesn't work. Kihai, as in the following story, the Minyamin, that was his name, Avdei the Ravashi, the slave of Ravashi, Ba'alat Bule. Ravashi wanted to be toivel him in order to make him an Eved, right? So he was very careful. Masrei Nehalayu. He handed him over to two Talmidim, L'Ravina, and also L'Rav Achbei the Rav. Amalu, he tells them, he gives them instructions. Chazu, pay close attention, do this properly. Because if we lose him, you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna pay me for him. So what do? Ramulei, they put over him arvisa b'tzavre, some sort of a leash, or a chain around his neck. Arpulei, they loosened it a bit, but they kept it a bit firm as well. Why? Somewhere in between. Arpulei, it was a bit loose, right? So it shouldn't pose a barrier between water and the Eved. It can't be that tight. On the other hand, Tzimtzumulei, they made it somewhat firm. This way he can't get up and say, I'm doing this l'shem ben chayr, and he goes free. By making it tight, by sort of pulling him down, they indicate that, no, you are under our, you are submitted to us, you are under our jurisdiction, in our possession, and that precludes any possibility of undoing it. Mimaya, as he was lifting his head out of the water, they did another thing to indicate that he's an Eved right from the get-go. They put a bucket of cement, areshi, on his head. They tell him, look, here's your first job. Go transport this to your master. Listen to this. Did you ever see what they were doing there? Hani de Papa bar Abba. The family of Papa bar Abba, they were wealthy people, and they would pay up certain individuals' back taxes. They would pay up their back taxes to the authorities, and by doing so, they gained possession of those people. That was the halacha. That was the law of the land. The Yavi Zuzi, they pay up money le'inshi on behalf of these people, le'kargayu, to pay up their back taxes, their head taxes, umishabdi behu, and then they enslave them. That's the law. Pay his taxes, becomes your Eved. Question is, to what extent do they own these people? Is it just a monetary hold, or is it actually a balus on the guf? In which case they're considered like avodim, in which case, in order for him to go free, he needs a real document, a shtar shichur. To what extent do they own them? Kinafki, when they leave their ownership, when they leave their owners, do they need a get cherus, a shtar shichur, or not? Basically, he's asking whether it's a shibud mammon or a shibud hakuf. This was presented to Rabbah. Omar Leis, Rabbah responded, good thing you asked. If I would have passed away right now, you would have missed this information. I wouldn't have gotten a chance to tell you the following halacha. I actually know this halacha. It's the name of Rav Sheshes. Good thing you asked. Rav Sheshes. Merkayu, Rashi learns, Chaysaman shel Elu. It's like a signature, like a stamp, like a seal. The slave's seal, his slave's identification, the hani of these people, but Havsa de Malka Manach is stored in the king's chest, meaning they're committed. They're committed to the king. They're meshubah to the king. Dino de Malchusa, Dino, you have to follow the law of the land. And what is the law? Umalka Amar, king says, Mandalo Yehoyav Karga, one who doesn't pay up his taxes, Mishtabed Lamand Yehoyav Karga, becomes an Eved, a full-fledged slave to the fellow who pays up his taxes. Yes, certainly they are slaves and need a get shichrur to go free. Says the Gemara, Avchir bar Abba ikla legavla. Avchir bar Abba came to visit the town of Gavla, and he saw the following three things. Chaza, number one, he saw Benois Yisrael, Jewish girls, the Ma'abron Megerim, they were married to Gerim and they were expecting from Gerim Shemalu V'Loitovlu, Gerim who did not go through a complete procedure. They had Mila but not Tvila. Number one. V'chaza Chamra di Yisrael, he saw there was Jewish wine, the Mazgi Obdet Kechavim, the Gerim would dilute them with water. V'shasi Yisrael, and the Jews would drink the wine. V'chaza Termus, and he saw these beans, the Shalki of the Kechavim, which the Gerim would cook. V'achli Yisrael, and Jews would eat it. V'loi amar lu v'loi midi, and he didn't, Rav Chia didn't protest. Then, Asr al-Kamed Rabbi Yechon, he came back to Rabbi Yechon and related to him the story. Amar Rabbi Yechon tells him, very harshly, it's say, v'achar zaleim al b'neim she mamzer. Number one, go tell them, go declare that children as mamzer. Number two, their wine is Asr b'shtiyat yain nesach, was handled by a guy. Number three, their beans aren't fit for achilas Yisrael, they were cooked by a guy. Really, it's not Asr, but in this case, I'm going to be machmer. They're not learned people, and I want to make an extra, gzeira, extra gather, extra precaution in order to prevent them from doing Yisurim. And the Gemara explains all three halachas. Number one, al bnei and shem mamzer. Why is it that the children born from this type of union are considered mamzer? Rabbi Yechon follows his own shita, which is you don't consider him a ger until he goes through both parts of the process, mila and tvila, otherwise it's worthless. And since these fellows did not do tvila, he's a guy. And what happens then? What happens if the guy interacts with a yid? Avad mamzer. There you go. Number two, this wine is to be considered yain nesach. The question is why. Rashi says they didn't really actually touch the wine. It was only their kayach, was their force. They poured water into the wine. They didn't actually touch the wine. Perhaps they handled the kli with the wine, but technically it's not yain nesach. But we're extra careful. Mishum leich amrin nazir. We tell the nazir is not meant to interact with wine. Go away. Keep far away from the vineyard. Zechar, around and around. Take a roundabout route. Lekarmel sikrav. Don't get close to the vineyard here as well. We make that extra gzera to keep them a step away from yain nesach. Thirdly, val termusan mishum bishulu abdikechavim lefish einen bnei Torah. It seems that these beings were technically mutter. He considered it asr because they're not learned fellow, and therefore we have to be clear and consistent with them, and we make it asr. Were they to be learned people, we would not make it asr. Why? What do you mean? A guy cooked these things. Only something which is able to be eaten raw and uncooked. Yeah, in that case, if a non-Jew cooks it, it's not considered bishul akum. Remember, the whole point of bishul akum is to keep away, to avoid interaction and socializing with the goat, which might lead to worse things. Something which could be eaten raw is not considered something which the goat prepared as a dish for you. It's not something that has substance and meaning and value, and it's not something which is evokes appreciation and closeness. But that applies only to things as vegetables and things that can be eaten raw. But beans, that's not something that you can eat raw and uncooked. It should be asr min adin. Why is it only a chumrah? Answers the Gemara. We have another condition as well that needs to be met for it to be considered asr. Rabbi Yehuda follows the other version of Rab. The Omar of Shmuel bar Yitzchak, Mishmei de Rab. There's another condition to be met as well for bishul akum. Number one, it can't be eaten raw. Number two, it has to be fit for the royal menu. Something that was not served at a king's table, lechol beis hapas, to be eaten together with his bread. Basically, it's not a dish fit for kings. Is not considered a bishul akum. It doesn't have the same value, the same meaning, and therefore, in the case of turmusin, that's not something that kings eat, and there's no isser. But Tama, the reason why it's asr in this case is because the Einam Bnei Torah, he knew that they were ignorant, and he didn't want to create confusion. But Ha Bnei Torah Shari, had they have been Bnei Torah, learned, educated people, he would not have made it asr. Tanarabah. Let's move on to the sugya of gerus. What makes a ger into a ger? So ideally, he needs, that's how we paskin, 3 elements. There is Mila, there is Tefillah, and there is Kabbalah's El Mitzvahs. Tanarabban. Ger Shemol V'le Taval. Suppose he did Mila with no Tefillah. What happens then? Here comes a chiddush. Rabbi Lezer Omer Harei Zager. It also works. What's the raya? Take a look back in history. Shekein Matzinu Bavisenu. Look at our forefathers in the Midbar. Shemalu. We know they had milah because otherwise they couldn't eat the Korban Pesach. Kol Ora Lo Yechal. They had milah, but V'lo Tavlu. Where do we see they were tayvel? Apparently, one is enough. What about the other way around? Tava V'lo Mal. He did tefillah without milah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Harei Zager. In this case, I say he's a ger. Why? Shekein Matzinu B'Yemais Shetavel V'lo Malu. Look back at the Midbar, our four mothers, right? The wives of the Dor HaMidbar, they didn't have milah, they only had tefillah. Apparently, tefillah is enough. So, according to Rabbi Lezer, milah is enough, a raya from Aviseinu. Rabbi Yehuda holds tefillah is enough, a raya from Imo Yiseinu. Chachamim disagree. It's either all or nothing. Chachamim Aimrim, Tava V'lei Mal, he did tefillah without milah, or Mal V'lei Tava milah without tefillah. Eino ger, it's nothing. Ache Yomel V'yitbol, he need both. Okay, let's go back and analyze the Bryce. Rabbi Lezer says milah without tefillah suffices because of the avos. Rabbi Yehuda seems to disagree. Rabbi Yehuda nami neilaf mi avos. Why doesn't he learn from the avos? And likewise, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says tefillah works without milah. Rabbi Lezer seems to disagree. Why? Rabbi Lezer nami neilaf mi avos. Why can't he learn from the women in the midbar? Oh, and perhaps you'll explain as follows: Ein danen. You can't derive. You can't compare possible to an impossible. Efsha Mashi Efsha. Sure, in the Midbar, Imo Yiseinu, well, yeah, they were women, they couldn't do a milah. What is that, a raya to a man? Is that the reason why you can't compare? No, you see, Rabbi Lezer is not concerned with that type of opposition of Efsha Mashi Efsha. He learns one from the other in other cases. Vatanya, listen to this price. Rabbi Lezer Eimer, Manai lepesach teiris. She'ein bo elim achulin. How do we know that a Korban Pesach throughout the generations can only be purchased using Maser Sheni funds? You have to use your own money. How do we know? Nemar Pesach b'Mitzrayim, we find the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim itself, the first one. V'nemar Pesach b'Deres, we find the Korban Pesach throughout the generations, and we compare. Ma Pesach ha'omer b'Mitzrayim, just as the Pesach in Mitzrayim, where they had nothing else but their own money, they had no Maser Sheni at that point. Therefore, it is certain that Ein Bo'el Ben Achulin can only be purchased from your own money. Av Pesach ha'omer b'Deres, likewise the Korban Pesach throughout all the generations has the same exact halach, has to follow the same guidelines. Ein Bo'el Ben Achulin can only be purchased using your own money. Rabbi Kiva responds to Rabbi Lezer, what kind of comparison? How could he learn Pesach Doros where you have Maser Sheni available today? Who's to say you can't use it? Well, Pesach Mitzrayim, that's a Yevsha. They had no money other than their own. Amalei, Rabbi Lezer responds, even so. Even though you're right, in Mitzrayim they had no other option, but it's still going to serve as a source for this halacha. Ra'aya Gedoili, it's a true source, a true proof. V'nilban memena, heimena, we can learn from it. The Maharal writes that whenever something is recorded in the Torah for the first time, that is the source of that concept. He calls it the source of the chiyus, of its existence. So right, in Mitzrayim they had no Maser Sheni to use, but the fact is it's the first Pesach we have, and we learn from there. That is the prototype, so to speak, the forerunner for all Korban Pesachs, and sets the guidelines. So you see, you can learn from Yevsha. So why wouldn't Rabbi Lezer learn from Imo Yiseinu in the Midbar? Tefillah without milah works. Elo says the Gemara, you're right. B'tava v'lei mal, kol yamali pligidim mahani. Tefillah without milah, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yehuda both agree it works. Why Imo Yiseinu? Ki pligidim machlekes is only b'mal v'lei tava. There was a milah without a tefillah. Here we have the machlekes. Rabbi Lezer yolav mi avos. He says, look, let's learn from the avos in the midbar. It was milah. We don't find tefillah. Rabbi Yehuda, he says, no. But avos nami tefillah hava, you should know they also had tefillah. Menole, how does he know? Ilayim b'dechsev is it from the pasuk which says in preparation for Matan Torah, Leich ela'am v'kidashtam hayom emachar v'chibus imloisam. Go tell the nation, prepare, wash your clothing. The Gemara is assuming it's associated with tahara. Now think about it. If you need clothing which are tar, most certainly you need your guf to be tar. And the Gemara will learn this out from the Sort of a Kavachimer. Uma b'makim she'ein ton kibus. Look, you find elsewhere, like a Balkari, Rashi says. He doesn't need to wash his clothing. There's no mitzvah to wash clothing. But still, ton tvili has to tend to his guf, be tovel his guf. So you see guf is primary to clothing. Certainly, of course, makam sheton kibus. In preparation for Matan Torah, where kibus, begadim, was required, of course, one's guf, one's own self should be tar. Ein odin sheton tefillah. Of course, tefillah was required. And this is my raya. Says Rabbi Yehuda that they did tefillah. V'dilma nekiyus ba'alma. How do you know there was kibus for tahara? How do you know they were laundering their clothing for tahara purposes? Maybe the pasuk is just telling, look, come presentable. Come with clean clothing. Nothing to do with tumah v'tahara, and therefore you have no basis for this whole notion that they went to tefillah. Elam yacha, rather from here. Vayikach Moshe as hadam. Vayizroi kala am. So Moshe Rabbeinu took the dam of the karbonis and he sprinkled it on Klal Yisrael. V'gemiru, we have this as a kabbalah, as a tradition, as a fact. De'ein hazah b'lei tefillah. You can't do hazah without being tovel in advance and in preparation for that hazah. This is the raya that they had tefillah as well. Apparently Rabbi Lezer disagrees, and that's the machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda, tefillah be'imois minolan. Okay, let's go to Rabbi Yehuda. Tefillah without milah works from the imois. How do you know they had tefillah? Maybe they had nothing. There's no mention in the Torah that they did tefillah. Answers the Gemara svaro. It's just common sense. Certainly the women were also absorbed and incorporated in the Shechina during Matan Torah. They were Yisraelim. How did that happen? It doesn't just happen by itself. Something had to be done. Some effort had to be expended. Apparently, we're just assuming tefillah was a proper step to be taken. In fact, we assume it as fact that it was tefillah. So we have two shittas, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara tells us tefillah without milah, all agree works. The question is regarding milah without tefillah. But here comes a third shita. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yechanan, lo'olam ein ger at sheyamo v'yitbol. This corresponds to shita's chachamim, third shita. You need both aspects of gerus. One without the other is worthless. Pshita, of course, it's obvious. That's how we rule. That's how we paskin. Yochid v'rabim, malacha kirabim. You have an individual against a majority, against a multitude. Of course, we follow the chachamim. What's the chiddush that we need everything? Of course. Answers the Gemara, because here the chachamim isn't really the multitude. It's a shita yichidah. It's an individual's opinion. Man chachamim. Who's the chacham? Rabbi Yossi. And therefore, you have to actually say we follow that shita. That's how it's been accepted. We follow the shita, milah, tefillah, and of course Kabbalah's el mitzvahs. This Sanya, where do we find Rabbi Yossi? That you need milah v'tefillah. Harei sheba v'amar malti v'loi tavalti. This fellow shows up to Bezdin, Rabbi Yisai. I did milah, but I have not yet been tovel in a mikveh. So what do? Matvil noisai. We put him into the mikveh. Ma'bekach. What's the no harm, no worry? Why? Divi Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda's shita. You see, we're not chayshish that the milah was not done the shame. Milah, perhaps it was done for medical reasons, unrelated to becoming a ger. We're not chayshish. We're not concerned. You know why? According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's one or the other. So let's say the milah is not valid, doesn't have value, but now he's being tovel in front of us. That makes him a Yisrael. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's one or the other, milah or tefillah. Rabbi Yehuda, no, we can't just send him to the mikveh because perhaps the milah was not a proper milah. And you need both elements to become a Yisrael. Milah v'tefillah, a proper milah. And therefore, Rashi says you have to be matif men and dam bris. You have to prick a bit and get some dam out, and that sort of counts as a milah. So even if the original one wasn't really effective, this one will work. And then we are tovelim. As a result of this machlekes, lefichach, therefore, madbilan ger b'Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda. Suppose a fellow did have a proper milah. We're speaking about a fellow who had a proper milah, a proper moil, l'shem gerus, but he had not yet been toivel. He wants to complete the process. It seems like ideally you should do everything, right? And he wants to complete the process. Says Rabbi Yehuda, sure, he can jump into the mikvah on Shabbos, because technically he's already arrived. He's already joined the Jewish nation. He had his milah, and all you need is one or the other. So even if it's Shabbos, where typically you shouldn't make a ger on Shabbos, it looks like you're improving him, you're fixing him. It's tikkun mana, issa d'rabbanan. You might come to fix a kli, but he's done. He's done and over with. He's a ger through his milah. Therefore, you can put him into the mikvah on Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi ein matbil. No. Once again, Rabbi Yossi holds both ingredients are required to make him a Yisrael. So even though he had a proper milah, but he hadn't yet been toivel, he can't do it on Shabbos. Now Tosfos asks, why is this different than any other tummy who's allowed to be toivel on Shabbos? Because it looks like he's just rinsing himself off. There's a Gemara in Beitza. Says Tosfos here, it's different because we need two Talmidei Chachamim to stand there and instruct him, to tell him some mitzvahs. That's a scene. It looks like it's really happening. It looks like he's becoming a Jew, and that's also on Shabbos. Tosfos Yishanim says a lashon. Well, over there by regular tummy, it's not a tikkun gadol. It's not a significant improvement. As over here, Shabo Ali they can't let Torahs Yahados. Look, you're creating him making a new entity, recreating him. You may recall we had a Gemara way back. The Gemara spoke about a person turning to Yisrael. The Gemara said, "Well, Gufa Achrunai, it's a different person." And the Sfarim say that when a person joins the Jewish nation, it's not like just the fact that he's getting a neshama. His whole body gets transformed, becomes a kedushas Yisrael. Even on the guf, there's not a Gemara Chav Gimel Aleph. L'chi megaira gufa achrunai, she turns into a new guf. So yeah, you can't create something on Shabbos. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, since the gerus process entails two steps, milah and tefillah, even if you had a proper milah, you can't do the tefillah on Shabbos because you're making a ger. Well, pshita, of course, isn't this just plain mathematics? Well, 1 + 1 = 2. If Rabbi Yehuda holds that typically one of the two is enough, then then you can do the second one on Shabbos because it's not really adding much. And according to Rabbi Yossi, if both are needed, then you shouldn't do it. It's pretty much just elementary math. What's the point of repeating this halacha? Kivad Am Rabbi Yehuda b'chadu sagi. Once Rabbi Yehuda already tells us in the first halacha that one of the two processes is enough, is sufficient to make him a ger, well, then the natural outcome is heicha demola fanenu. If he had a proper milah in our presence and that counted, then he's done. Matbil, then come Shabbos, you could be matbilim because he's not really adding much. There's no tikkun mana. What's the point of adding the second part of the brais? Isn't it just plain evident and obvious? Answers the Gemara, there is some chiddush. Perhaps I would say that Rabbi Yehuda, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that one is enough, but tefillah ikar, the fact is tefillah is primary, or tefillah b'Shabbos loy, even though he had a milah, but he didn't really do the primary part of the process. So technically he's Yisrael, but he's missing out, and that's also considered an accomplishment. And therefore, you shouldn't do it on Shabbos to come a sakin garer because he's improving on the person. Kamashwan the chiddush is no. Rabbi Yehuda boy. Rabbi Yehuda treats them both equally. Both tefillah and milah are of equal value, and once he does one, he doesn't need to do the other one, and he's free to do it on Shabbos if he so wishes. Says the Gemara the same kasha. Rabbi Yossi ein matbilan. Even though he had a proper milah, he shouldn't be doing tefillah on Shabbos because he's completing the gerus process. Well, that's evident. Pshita, of course. Once we already know the kivan, the Amar Rabbi Yossi already told us tar tefillin and both elements are required. Well, then tikuni gavra b'Shabbos lo misakrin, and certainly you shouldn't be toivelim because you're fixing the person. What's the chiddush? Once again, says the Gemara, perhaps I would say that Rabbi Yossi milah is the ikar, and once he's done that, the tefillah is just secondary. It's just a completion of the process. It's not really considered a concern on Shabbos. V'hasam, well, in the first case where he did the milah, not in front of us, that's why it doesn't count. V'hasam hu deloi havoi milah b'fanenu. In the first case in the brais, you know why he needs proper tefillah, because the milah there was not done in our presence, and that's why we say that it doesn't really work. And and that's why he has to redo it and has to do the tefillah as well. But let's say he does the milah in front of us. In that case, it's a proper milah. Perhaps he's 3/4 of the way there, and tefillah on Shabbos is just a sort of a formality which concludes the process, and that could be mutter kamashwan. The chiddush is no, they're basically tarti boy. He requires both, and they're both pertinent elements, both of equal value. Tarti boy, and therefore, just because he did a proper milah, we don't allow him to finish and do the tefillah on Shabbos, because that is making him into a ger, and that is misakein the person. So I would think perhaps, in the first case we didn't do a proper milah, sure, it doesn't count. But in the case where he does a proper milah, perhaps that's primary, and he's almost there, and I could just finish it on Shabbos. The chiddush is no. So that's Rabbi Yosef's shita, and that's how we paskin. That all three ingredients are required: milah, tefillah, and the kabbalas mitzvahs, which we usually do as he's being toivel. Now, there's a very interesting shaila brought down in Sefer Shailas HaTshuvas Binyan Tzion. Listen to this story. A real story that happened in Yerushalayim about 300-400 years ago. There was a Yisrael, an immigrant. Actually, he was a guy. He was an immigrant from Morocco, and he wanted to be Megayer. Okay? So he had Milah. But they were waiting for the wound to heal. And it so happened that Shabbos arrives, and he hadn't yet been Toivel. So he had the Milah without the Tefillah. Now, as we know, a ben noyach shavas chayav misa. Right? We learn from the pasuk Yoyim V'Layla Lo Yishbosu. A guy may not keep Shabbos. He's chayav misa if he does. It's our property. It's our possession. You can't partake in it. So what happens now? He's in limbo. He's in no man's land. He had part of the process done to him. He had his Milah, but no Tefillah. Technically, he's not yet a ger, not yet a Yisrael. What should he do with this Shabbos now? It was a big shayla. They sent to the Bezdin, and the big Dayanim responded, sent him a message, an urgent message. You must be Machal Shabbos this week. There's no choice. There's no alternative. You have to do something which is Machal Shabbos. You may not keep Shabbos. You're not Ed Yisrael. This fellow was crestfallen, heartbroken, and he took out a pen and he wrote his name in a foreign language. Didn't use Lashon Kodesh, and he was crying bedema that he had to be. He could not keep the Shabbos. That unfortunately he had to be Machal Shabbos. He felt terrible. And as the story goes, the next day the other Dayanim heard about it, and they were very, very upset, and they wanted to put the first Dayan in Cherem for compelling him to be Machal Shabbos. They said he was totally off. Sure, you need both elements of Tefillah and Milah for proper gerus, but the fact is, he's on his way, and even if he did the Tefillah without the Milah without the Tefillah, sure, he didn't conclude the process. He's not considered a proper Yisrael, but the fact is, he's no longer a Ben Noyach. The Chacham Sefer writes, the others write the same thing. The fact is, he left. He's no longer identified as a guy. He's sort of neutral. He's in limbo. He's in no man's land. So the Isra of a Ben Noyach doing Shabbos, that doesn't apply to him. He's no longer a Ben Noyach. He's not a Ben Noyach, but he's not an Yisrael. Fascinating. And therefore, they hold that it was a mistake. He should not have been Machal Shabbos. He should have kept the Shabbos, and it would have been okay. In fact, I saw one of the Paiskim, I forget, I think the Chalkas Yoav, he says this whole shaila is only by Milah without Tefillah, but certainly if he had Tefillah but not yet Milah, it's clear from our Gemara that that's much better. I think Gemara says, but Tava v'leimol, even Rabbi Lezer and Rishon both agree that it's fine. So even though we don't paskin like that, we require everything, but you see that as far as value and importance, Tefillah stands higher than Milah. Certainly in that case, he says if he did Tefillah without Milah, he should be keeping Shabbos in the interim. It's interesting that in the B'tzel HaChachma, he says it's a wonder that the Goinim did not relate to the Tosfos Yeshanim in 2 pages now from Chesed Beis. Tosfos Yeshanim says clearly that a guy who did part of the process, Milah and not yet Tefillah, he should be keeping Shabbos. It's a Tosfos Yeshanim right over here on the page. He says even though a guy is not allowed to keep Shabbos, if he's shleimer, in this case it's different. Since he's on his way, he's allowed to keep Shabbos. Fascinating sugya. Okay, in any case, let's conclude the daf. It says the Gemara, Amar Rabba. I'll tell you the following story. Uvda, there was a story, Uvda Hava Bei Rabbi Chia Bar Rebbe, in the house of Rabbi Chia Bar Rebbe. For Rav Yosef, Master Rav Yosef added another name to the story. Rabbi Yoshe bar Rabbi was also there. Rav Safar Masni added a third person. Rav Yoshe bar Bchia. They were all there, standing together. The Asal Kamei Ger Shemoblo Tavel. This ger who had meal without tefillah approaches them. He wanted to conclude the process. He wanted to be tovel, and it was nighttime. Amrle, they told him, look, Shahi Khan, wait around Ad Lamach until tomorrow by day. Even at Belinach, we'll arrange for a tefillah. Shema Minot Las. From this story, we have three conclusions. Number one, Shema Minot Ger Tzarech Shloisha. 3 dayanim are needed to make a ger. It's like a bezd. Shema Minot Eine Ger Ad Sheyom Av Yitboil. He needs Mila and Tefillah, 4 gerus. Shema Minot. Thirdly, Ein Madid Bilin Ger Ba Laila. You can't do tefillah by Laila. The reason being that it's like a din, and din has to be done by day. V'neima, why can't we say a fourth conclusion as well? Shema mino nami ba'inan mumchen. The fact is we had 3 experts standing, and perhaps you need 3 mumchen in order to facilitate gerus, not just 3 ordinary people. You need 3 big experts, world experts like Reb Chia, etc. Dilma de iklu. Perhaps it just so happens that they were all standing there. It wasn't really a precondition. But then asks Rashi, how do you know you need 3? Perhaps circumstantially there were 3 people there. So he says, well then Rav Safra wouldn't come and say, well, you should know there was another person there. The fact that they're trying to teach us that this is required. 3 is required, but not necessarily 3 with the same level of expertise. Likewise, he says, Ger tzarech gimel, you need 3 dayanim to facilitate gerus. Why? Mishpat ksibe, we find the pasuk mentioning the term mishpat in association with gerus. Rashi brings the pasuk mishpat echad yelachem v'la ger, and Rashi concludes ve'ein mishpat pachas min gimel. For a din Torah, you need 3 dayanim at a minimum. Okay, let's conduct a quick chazara of today's daf. Who could be kaina whom? So a non-Jew, if he acquires a non-Jew as an eved or a Jew, it's only a limited kinyan, it's a kinyan mamay. A Yisrael acquires a goy as an eved, that's a kinyan haguf. Therefore, if a goy sells his eved, his non-Jewish eved to Yisrael, actually he's only transferring some monetary elements here. That's all he has to give. In order to ensure that this eved doesn't just run free, you have to force him into the mikveh and display ownership at the time of tefillah when he's entering the avdus. That ensures that he'll hold on to him. But if this eved jumps in and says, I'm becoming a ger right now, that's it. He beat him to the punch and he becomes a ger. Dina de malchusa dina can at times affect the guf of this person. So you pay back taxes, you actually own him as an eved. What constitutes gerus? Rabbi Yossi says Mila and Tefillah, that's how we paskin. Rabbi Shua says Tefillah alone can suffice, we learn from the Yevamos and the Midbar. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yehuda both hold. It's one or the other. The Mila without the Tefillah like the Avis in the Midbar. Tefillah without the Mila like the Yevamos. Maskanas of the Gemara is that 3 things are required by gerus. 3 dayanim, Mila and Tefillah, and during daytime. You should have much, much haslacha and B'suras Tovos, all the best.